Ladies and gentlemen, gather around for a unique look into the world of custom motorcycling. We've gathered some of the industry's top builders and fabricators on this stage to show you their skills live and in person. Watch as they chop, grind, and weld their creations into existence right before your very eyes. Feel free to ask questions at any time directly to your host, Pat Jansen. The doors to the shop are open, so pull up a stool, kick back, and welcome to the Grease and Gears Garage.
And clap. Ma'am. That's good. Oh, yeah. There's always that one person that she's going to be like this. Like that. Lead paint, ladies and gentlemen. That's the result. All right. Pat Jansen, Grease and Gears Garage. Folks, we are professionals, but we're not professional entertainers. We're mechanics. Chris, Mark, and I travel around the country with Heather, making sure that we don't screw anything up too badly that she can't either pay for or fix. We carry our tools around. We've been doing this at rallies. Progressive International Motorcycle Show invited us to come on their 7-show series and do segments with them. We're just greasy mechanics. They have flat broke rods and chops in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I've got Sin Central Garage just outside of Des Moines, Iowa. What we do is we invite our friends up that are custom motorcycle builders around the country. We invite them on stage to be able to inspire, entertain, educate, and give a little bit of a slice of life about what it looks like to be in a garage environment. So we're inviting you into Grease and Gears Garage. If you see something that's interesting to you, you want to get a closer look, if you got a question, I'm going to put the microphone down here. You can come ask a question. So if you want to get involved, say, when I say, hey, does anybody want to give this a whirl, raise your hand, we'll bring you up. We want to demystify the shop environment and the tools and the techniques that are used to create custom things. We've got Evan Favaro. Evan, come on up. This is your time to shine, young man. I took Evan under my wing many years ago and taught him everything he's about to show you. Very talented young man. With he and his mom it didn't work out because his dad kept getting angry. Made it really awkward. No, Evan and I have been good friends for a long time. This young man is extremely talented. He's got Speakeasy Motors in Walk Hill, New York, which is a little bit of a connection for us because my dad was raised in Walk Hill, but has long since been gone. Really? Yep. Went to New Paltz High School. Graduated from New Paltz. Nice. So folks, you're invited in. We're Facebook Live this. You'll see me referring to that every once in a while. If you've got questions, Facebook Live, type them in. Heather Callan is ready, willing, and able to get those to us up here so you can be involved as well. But ladies and gentlemen, it's Grease and Gears Garage. Evan, what are you doing for us today?
I'm going to build a gas tank. I have a model here. I'm going to replicate. This is just like your standard Sportster gas tank. So I'm going to just go through the process of paper patterning it and how I do that and how I use light to figure out all my highlight lines and radiuses, and then I'll go through the process and actually rough up the top two sides, and then I'll weld it all together, and then you'll have a gas tank shell.
So Evan is going to take a flat piece of steel and is going to make a gas tank right before your very eyes in an hour and a half. Is that what we got?
In an hour and a half.
In an hour and a half. So. Just so you know, if you want to give this a shot, it might take you a little longer. You've acquired a tremendous amount of skills in a short amount of time. Evan is an intense student of metallurgy and metal shaping. He's a true American craftsman. I'm not blowing sunshine up your skirts. He is studied with Fay Butler, who is the preeminent teacher of metal craft in the United States, really around the world. Yep. And Evan has been fortunate enough to also be invited by Fay Butler to be with him as he teaches metal crafting to people. So this guy's really talented, and we'll get into more of that and kind of what else you're doing. So get us started on building this tank so we don't run out of time.
Well, it's done.
All right.
Yeah, I'm all done.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Grease and Gears Garage.
I'm going to grab the sheet metal.
Oh, no, we're not leaving.
Yeah.
It's the easiest $10 I was ever going to make.
So here's a gas tank. And
that doesn't look like a gas tank, Evan.
It will be.
If you see me sweating up here, it's not because I'm fat. I look fat because I have 3 cameras on me. Each one adds 10 pounds, so that's 30 pounds overall. I'm a very thin, tall, young man. its lighting is terrible. No, I put my flannel line jeans on because it was cold this morning.
Right.
But I put my ones that didn't have flannel lining in my backpack, and I didn't bring my backpack. So I've got flannel line jeans in a building that is overcompensating for the cold weather. So
that's great, man. Nice.
Why don't you continue with that, since that's what the people came for?
The way I build any gas tank, I'll start with whether it's a design or a sketch. There's a couple different instances in the way I'll start. This one would be my mold, which is a buck. Sometimes you can make a buck out of wood or foam. What I'll do is, like on a full-bodied bike, I would take like 2-inch hard insulation, rigid foam. You buy right at Home Depot or Lowe's, glue it together, and then I'll actually carve that out and see what kind of tank, like mold it to the bike, and then once that mold is set, what I'll do is I'll take paper. This is just like drop cloth paper. It comes in a long roll and different width. And what I'll take that mold and I'll figure out my light lines. If you look at like this tank, you can kind of see like where the light reflects on it, which will be along this perimeter here, and then up the center. And I'll trace those out. And I'll kind of plan out like where I want my pieces, how many pieces I'm going to actually build it in. A tank like this I'll do in 3 pieces. I'll do one top piece and 2 halves. So when I have this, I'll take paper and I'll cut it out. And I already cut these out and paper pattern it. But I'll explain the process. Is paper and metal are the same. They're the same thing. Paper and metal are the same thing. So there's metal forming.
Okay, next time you go to the bathroom, let's work on that principle.
Yeah, there you go. So paper and metal act the same way, I should say.
They have similar properties in terms of how they shape.
That's right. So there's metal forming, and then there's metal shaping. The difference is metal forming is bending. This is metal forming. I didn't change the thickness of the metal in any way. All I did was bend it. So that's what metal forming is just when you bend something over your knee. Just like paper, it only goes this way or this way or this way. But when you have compound curves, now you're adding shape into it. And the only way to achieve shape is to change thickness. So that's all metal shaping is. You're changing the thickness in a controlled way, usually through compression, which is hammer and dolly or an English wheel or a power hammer, stuff like that. So like say I'll take this piece of paper. I already drew a center line down it. And I know kind of where I want to run this top panel. But if you see, like, when it's sitting there, this doesn't fit nice, it's got to be folded. So anywhere I put a fold in this paper would be a shrink, because right there is where I need to make the material actually thicker to make that compound curve. Or if you're shaping something where you have to come in the opposite direction, you would put a slice in the paper to lay it flat. That would be a stretch, so you're actually fitting the material. This, I can bring the shrink or stretcher.
Yes, I will grab it right now.
I can kind of like, this is a pretty cool example of the effects of shrinking and stretching metal. Is you take the reason I have this is I'll do some shrinks and stretch all along the same plane, and you can take this and turn it into an S shape. And it's a pretty good example of what shrinking does and what stretching does. It kind of just visualizes it. So one of these is by hand, right?
What's that?
Doesn't one of these, are these both hooked up?
They're both by foot. That's what those pedals are
Wasn't
for.
there? Oh. So like, this is a kick shrinker. What it is, it's 4 jaws that they come down. This one doesn't work. I guess the shrinker's by hand.
Oh yeah.
You got like a rod or something?
Yeah, I got a rod.
It's 4 jaws that come down and they got texture on them, so it comes down, grabs the material and squeezes it together, and that shrinks it. And then the other side is the opposite. You could be my shrink man.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. You tell me when.
Give that a shrink. Try a little harder.
I don't have the appropriate leverage.
I think we need Will Ramsey back on here.
My weight is usually a great advantage in this instance.
It's not working at all.
It's
Yeah, what happened to the arm?
All right.
I don't know.
Let's try stretching. Little malfunction. That's cool.
Talk amongst yourselves, Evan.
Thanks.
Evan, while we're looking for the arm to that, tell us what it is that you're currently doing other then Speakeasy Motors and building all kinds of cool stuff 60 hours a week at your shop. Where do you spend the other 60 hours a week?
Currently, I'm the fabricator over at Orange County Choppers. We're in the middle of filming American Choppers coming back out. It airs on March 1st, so you'll see me there. We just built this crazy supercharged bike for Geico. It's like 200 horsepower, giant supercharger sticking out of it. Thing was insane. It's probably one of the most complicated gas tanks I've ever built. I wireframed it. It was really cool. 2 pieces, fuel injected. The bike was like nuts.
Now, how did you end up getting the gig at Orange County Choppers?
I saw an ad on Facebook 2013 that they were looking for somebody, so I applied. A bunch of us applied, and that was for the old show when we were on a different network, and process elimination. And
that's beautiful.
See if that works. Oh, and then I started. Hey, how you doing? Started working there. I was living in Jersey at the time, commuting back and forth. You want to try it? I mean, we could try it.
I'll try it. I'm not opposed to trying anything. Not anything. Most things.
And I didn't want to do the commute anymore, so I moved my shop and my house. I bought a house up in Wallkill, and that's where we're at now. I just recently put an addition on my shop.
And this is why you have friends come help you in the garage?
Yeah, there you go. Well, kind of. You can kind of get the gist of what I'm doing here.
Well, you can see here what the stretch did.
Yeah, I could do a little more, but there's something wrong with the machine. But what's happening is I'll stretch here, and you can see like how it's starting to arc this way. And if I put a shrink here, I'm making the material thicker here, so it'd come back in, and I could take this, which you can't obviously bend in either direction, and I could take this and turn it into like an S shape, which is essentially relates to that because I'm changing the thickness in a different way, and that's causing it to curve.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you always say you can only do a few things with metal. What are those things again?
You could shrink it or stretch it.
Shrink it or stretch it. That's it. Will Ramsey adds to that you can cut it and bend it. But that's really...
That's right.
I mean, but really metal only does 2 things. It shrinks and it stretches. That's it.
Yep. So I could cut this out. You could see like the way I mark where my folds are. I got these little V's here, and that's just where I put my shrinks. And I'll literally fold the paper until it fits, and that's how I find that out. So you can see like as it comes around, it'll start to form these compound curves.
I'd rather you do it.
So I don't really have too much time, so I'm going to actually start tracing it out and cutting it out.
Get on it, doggone it.
You got
you got to need a Sharpie?
I got Sharpies. I'm looking for my magnets.
That magnet trick is a cool trick, man. He's got a cool magnet trick.
It's unbelievable.
And it's magnet, not magic, so nothing's going to disappear. I won't be here for the whole hour and a half.
Oh, yeah.
Evan, while you do that, somebody on Facebook, Jim Kerr, wants to know what's the favorite tank that you've made.
The favorite tank I made?
Yeah, do you have a favorite style or a favorite tank in particular?
The one that pays the most.
Yeah. The first bike I built at OCC, it was for this company, and I built this split tank, and the side of the tank, cut it out, and we CNC'd these blocks and put a piece of Lexan that's sandwiched, and we put the company's logo. I made these standoffs so the company's logo was actually floating in the gas tank. Or not floating, it was suspended in the gas tank. And then you could actually physically see the hole inside of the gas tank. It was pretty cool.
Oh, that is rad.
Yeah. And then recently that Geico bike, giant, so the way that this thing was, it's this giant, I think it's the second episode of the season when it comes out. Giant supercharger here, and then the front is the fuel, runs on 116 VP race fuel. And then the back is all your ECU and all the electronics, coils.
All of that's in the tank.
Molded through the supercharger. So I had to wireframe it and sculpt it around this giant supercharger, build it, and then I actually wound up splitting it in half. And then the hard part was mounting it all, making it all fluid, and then having a real nice tight gap. So it looks like it's one, but then you see it.
Now, it was on Discovery, but now you're going to be on TLC? Or no, what?
No, it is on Discovery now.
It is on Discovery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's about. They're cheering. It wasn't for you.
Right.
Sorry. I'll cheer for you later.
Thanks, bud.
Pat, this gentleman next to me would like to know about the bag you're wearing.
The bag I'm wearing. Company approached me last weekend and said, hey, would you like one of these? And I said, sure. These are by U Koala Bag. They're in the Shift area. And they have, which is important here in Chicago, you should not leave your house without one of these bags because it has a gun holster on the inside right here. So it's got a holster. And boy, I tell you what, the first year I was on tour with IMS doing some other stuff for another company, I didn't realize I carry all the time, right? And I went to New York show in Chicago. That's not a popular thing with the police officers to see you carrying around it. But anyway, it's got several different pockets. It attaches here. It goes around your waist. And it's so that when you're riding, you can access your cell phone. You can access change money when you're going through toll booths. I didn't realize what a big deal that was until I actually started riding up here a few years ago. I was riding through trying to get off your bike to get to stuff. And so, you know, it's really handy. It's just got several pockets, and they're kind of masculine, so it's not like wearing a fanny pack on your side. But U Koala Bag. I think this bag over there is $125, something like that. So
They're over at Shift, right?
it's Shift, yeah. They sell a lot of apparel. It's a cool kind of place. It's like an open barn. I see it. It's got the Edison lights all the way on the other side of the building. So thank you. Yeah, that's a U Koala Bag. They also convert into backpacks. But if you put a backpack that size on this back, it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea. But it'll... All right, Evan.
That's fine. Whatever. I got this. Yeah. All right. Okay.
We'll work on the back of the lift.
Sure.
All right, we're about to have multiple things happen. Like I said, this is a garage. We give people an hour and a half to do 3 6-hour jobs, stuff like that. We had Chris Moose from Misfit Industries out in Dallas up earlier, and he was showing us how he was going to model with a system that he carries and kind of is responsible for, model custom exhaust for a motorcycle and build it. He and Crystal Hess, who's with Motorcycle Missions, also out of Austin, they're going to be working on exhaust while we're working on a tank. So,
yeah. So this is just my electric shear. Great tool. Makes cutting real easy and nice.
Why do you have that particular electric shear?
Why? Because I bought it. That's why I have it.
Why do you use that instead of air?
I don't know. This is cleaner. I mean, not cleaner. It's just one less thing to...
Right.
I don't have to run an airline. It's just
curious.
You know,
I mean, I use an air one.
No particular reason. I have air ones as well.
Yeah.
Different applications. This I like to use on like flatter, whereas air.
In the middle called Shift.
I have like a pistol grip one, and it's more for like if I'm working on like inside a car or something.
Right on.
Tighter spots. This is a little bigger machine.
It's a little more powerful, probably.
I feel like I could run a longer, straighter line with this, and I feel like I don't know. I don't have that like vibration out of that as I do. I don't with this. So.
You can catch some of what he's doing here on the screens on the sides as well. Hey, no talking, just work.
Safety glasses.
You are. They're just
but I am.
Your forehead was very well protected.
Yeah.
Don't want to damage that hairline any more than it already is.
Thanks. You want this? I got you this.
You got me that? Can I keep? Will you sign it when we're done?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. I got art.
So paper to metal, and then the next step I'll do is this is like probably one of my most used tools in the shop. This is called the Radius Gage by Favaro. And what it is, it profiles any radius. You could, you know, see they're all like half moons, and they're all indicated on what diameter they are of what the radius is. I mean, so what I'll use this for is to see what curve, like the mold or the buck that I previously made, or in this instance would be this tank. I'll see, you know, I'll match it up and see what radius. This top happens to be a 12-inch radius. And then as I come into here where it gets sharper, this works out to be 15. So what I'll use that information for is that'll correlate to the dies that I choose for my English wheel. So I'll use a 12-inch die on the wheel, and then that will give me this desired compound shape.
We need more dies.
What's that?
We need more dies, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can start with that one. I'll find more.
Yeah.
Mark, where are the other dies for the English wheel?
I mean, this will kind of work.
Sorry.
Just dies for the wheeling machine. So the English wheel here is using compression, and it just has a flat upper die and a radius lower die. And what I'm doing is I'm just squeezing the metal, and then that'll give me a nice compound shape.
Okay. Yeah.
As I... Cool.
Flat die.
Maybe like
round
a
die.
real sharp one.
They're getting sharper as he's bringing them out.
That'll work.
Yeah, that one locked.
When I do this, I have this center line, and I'll work from the center and work my way out. That way the metal gets evenly pushed out. Because if you jump all over the place, it'll get all wavy and get all weird on you. And another thing I'll do is I'll kind of pull down on it, and you'll see it'll give it that effect a little more.
Again, with Greasing Gears Garage, one of the things that you see on TV a lot is you see people, I got to hold on to this, you see people
hold on to that, would you? Thanks.
Trying to do things mobile is kind of difficult sometimes. You see people using an English wheel all the time, and it's like, oh, I can never figure out how to use one, but they're really not that difficult to figure out how to use.
There's a million different dies and ways to use this. And it's just practice, man. I mean, in reality, for like a custom tank on like a chopper or something, I average about 20 to 25 hours. And that's because I've done it so many times. And that's still how long it takes, you know, from a piece of flat sheet to a pressure tested, ready to paint tank, depending on the complexity of it.
Yeah, man.
Different test piece, right?
Yeah.
My, that recent bike I did with a gas tank was a rear fender. That rear fender section with all the details and the hammer and dolly work, that was probably 60 hours into that one piece.
I mean, the tank you're making, it sounds bad to say, but it is a relatively simple tank. You know, that he's going to modify basically a Sportster tank. He's going to give it some better lines than what a stock Sportster tank has, or some different lines, I should say. But you do a lot of tanks, though. Like, I mean, before New York, you just done 4 tanks in 2 weeks or something?
Yeah, oh, geez, yeah, I was on like...
You were killing.
That thing I did on stage was like my 6th tank in a month or something.
So,
you know? Cool, yeah, way better.
And you can get, you know, as far as English wheels go, if you want to get into metal shaping, you know, this is a Mittler Brothers machine, which is great. You know, they're a good, solid company that makes a quality tool. But, you know, honestly, you can go to a Harbor Freight or something like that and get an English wheel, get into it and start messing around with it.
So as you can see, I have this top piece, and it's starting to take shape, kind of meeting the profile. But as you can see, obviously these the edges are still not meeting that contour. So what I'll do is I'll use a Planishing Hammer and actually come in here and set my light line, and then I'll come in with the shrinker and shrink these in where I have these
Planishing
notches.
Hammer?
This, I got these markings from my
He's ready.
paper pattern. Another thing with adding shape under compression is you're adding a lot of strength to the material. So as you can see, it's not flat anymore. Right there is cool, whatever. Yeah. So now it's a lot stronger, and it's got some shape to it, both ways. Right here is cool. Yeah, it's all good. Thank you.
Evan, I've seen.
There's a lot of activity.
I've seen
Got a lot of
the
stuff.
Geico.
This is what it's like working in the shop.
How long did it take you to build that? The Geico tank.
Geico tank, that took me like 30 hours.
That's it, really?
Yeah.
That's pretty
Yeah, because
impressive.
like the front was an actual fuel cell, and then the back was a skin to cover the electronics and stuff. So the rear section appears to be a gas tank, but it's actually just a skin. So I didn't have to make a tunnel and some other mounts like that. That was fun.
Your mom is watching.
What?
Your mom is watching.
I bet. Yeah.
Hey, Mom.
Hi, Mom. Yeah.
Oh, did you turn it off?
Hi, Mom.
Is the tank off? No, that's what I thought. I don't know what that was.
You know what, I can come in here and do some shrinks on here.
Yeah, we got a
hammer.
shrinker working here.
So you'll see this kind of take shape pretty quick. Even as I push down, you'll see that tank. I mean, even like if I don't have my hands on it, it'll like, see how like, well, you might not be able to see it from there, but it pulls itself down. And what I'm doing here is shrinking these corners. And I'll come around the edge. And those tick marks that I order are my guideline of where
What's
I
your
want
name?
the shrinks.
Come up here for a second. You don't have to climb. You can go around the side. Can we get him? I just wonder. Can you show somebody actually where to shrink it and how to do that?
I sure can. There's a lot to
You're going to get to see him work. You'll tell all your friends now. No, I actually saw him do something. How's it going? My name's Pat. It's good to meet you. Welcome to Grease and Gears.
Evan.
This is Evan. What's your name again?
Jeff.
Jeff. All right, Jeff.
Jeff.
Evans, I wanted him to be able to show you how to do that. He's going to leave with a skill today.
So the way this works is you'll take this piece and put it right in there in the jaws.
Line it up like this.
Yep. And usually with this style, you don't want to always go in with the full depth of the jaws. You can come out a little bit, and then if you just hit that pedal there, sometimes it hits that thing. You gotta really give her hell. It's only metal. You could always just
Give it a hell, man.
You want to be perpendicular to the line here?
Yeah, generally, because I'm gonna come back over it with a hammer and smooth it all back out. So, but you can see how it's starting to get thicker and it starts to come down. That wasn't like that.
Yeah, you're pulling that metal in together.
Try one here.
Yeah.
Again, perpendicular.
Yeah. You don't have to
want
be
to come
right
all
about
the way.
there. Right.
Oh, so your line is kind of a...
Yep. See how effective that was?
Yeah.
And I start to pull it down. So what I'll do is I'll come and I'll give it kick shrinks all the way around the perimeter of it, and get it kind of close to where I want it, where that'll start to suck down.
Can you increase how much it drops? Like,
Shrink it more. You just keep kicking it and actually making it thicker. And you can see if you like micrometer this, you'll see a difference. You use a caliper.
cool.
Yeah.
You're doing it. Here, hold that up to your mouth like it's an ice cream cone, but don't lick it because that's disgusting. A little closer, a little closer.
Okay.
All right. What's your name again?
My name's Jeff.
Jeff, and what do you ride?
I have a Triumph 800 XT and a Ducati Monster.
All right. Well, those are
Nice.
really
I like the
nice
Monster.
bikes. Yeah, the Monster, that's a cool bike. So, what do you think of the Progressive International Motorcycle Show so far?
Oh, it's great. I try and make it here every year.
That's
Had
good.
a lot of fun.
All right.
Learned
What-
a few things.
Yeah, learning through things. Well,
Yeah, learn
now you
something
can.
there.
Yeah, now you can tell people you have shaped
Build a
metal.
gas
So, well, Jeff, thanks for playing along.
Hey,
We
no
really
problem.
appreciate you coming up.
Thank you.
And you can tell everybody, anybody can do this now. Evan's not so special. Jackie, tell us what's going on in that Progressive parlor over there.
Well, we are certainly in the middle of another incredible presentation from our friends at Grease and Gears Garage. Stick around, they're not quite done yet. However, if you're over here in the parlor, we are in the middle of a super busy rock and roll day over here, hooking you up with all sorts of awesome free stuff here in the Progressive Parlor. If you get signed up with any of my lovely Progressive girls with the iPads in their hands for your chance to win our grand prize giveaway bike, I got some free goodies and swag just for entering that great contest. So make sure you do so. We are absolutely running out of swag over here, so come on over and get signed up right now. I hate to send you home empty-handed. And back here in the Chop Shop, we are still up and running and hooking you up with absolutely free barbershop services and free tattoos, airbrush tattoos that is, from our friends at Ink Tattoo Magazine. So come on over, take advantage, get yourself signed up while you are here at Progressive Motorcycle Insurance.
I also want to point out we have this bike that we're raising and lowering over here. One of our great partners, and just if you're ever interested in building a custom motorcycle, they got all kinds of cool stuff. Paco, they're out of Reno, Nevada, or Carson City, and they've donated this whole rolling chassis that we assembled last week on stage. That bike is going to be given to the winner of, mailed to Chris's house, he said, of the JMP Cycle Ultimate Builder Custom Bike Show this weekend. This is a national championships for that. JMP Cycles, of course, the largest distributor of aftermarket motorcycle parts in the world. They started with John Parham wanting to support custom motorcycle builders, and obviously they're still involved in that. They've got the part for just about any bike in the world. I mean, they can get you what you need. So the winner of the JMP Cycles Ultimate Builder Custom Bike Show this year, the national championship, that'll be awarded tomorrow. It's going to get a $10,000 check. It's going to get this Paco roller, and it's going to get this beautiful HMC Industries lift as well, and a 50-gallon drum of Lucas oil, which somehow they've figured out that it's going in my truck tomorrow. I'm taking it to Iowa, and whoever wins, I'm supposed to ship it to them. I don't even know how much it costs to ship. I might just end up with a big tub of oil at the house. I'm not sure how. I got to learn to pay attention better when people are talking and asking me to do things. I'm not sure how that's working. But so anyway, yeah, they're a great partner. Look them up. Evan, what do you got going on?
Just kept shrinking around, and as you can see, it's kind of starting to somewhat look like a top of a tank. I kept this center flat, just like this is here, and it's starting to take shape. So I'm going to hit it on the Planishing Hammer. What that's going to do is that's going to put my light line in it, which you can see that black line there, but then you can see the way that the light reflects off of that. That's kind of the line that I use to follow. Light lines are used and are like one of the most important things in any sort of automotive design. Car, bike, or body, airplanes, any sort of really surface is all based off of reflective light lines is what appeals to the eye, you know. I'm restoring a couple Porsche 356s now, and those are infamous for their beautiful light line that hasn't changed in 70 years. It's still like one of the sexiest feminine cars ever, you know.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to hit this on the Planishing Hammer and smooth this back out, because that'll put some uneven lines into it, and that hammer is going to hopefully take some of that out.
The Planishing Hammer is a tool. So far he's used the English wheel, used this shrinker stretcher. The Planishing Hammer is a tool everybody who rides a motorcycle can use, whether you're male or female. It's a tool you should have at the house. It improves relationships, and Evan will demonstrate why right now.
It's really loud. What? All right.
Keep going.
Thanks.
Keep going. Keep going. I got you, baby bird.
Appreciate it.
can't hear what your significant other is saying, you cannot argue with them. So get a planishing hammer. It'll do wonders for your relationship.
Yeah. But see, as you can see, like I shrunk it and I put all weird lines in it, and that hammer came back and it smoothed it all out. And normally I would spend a lot more time on that machine and really get it all kind of fine-tuned, but nobody really wants to hear that for that long. You know?
No, we don't.
Yeah. But, I mean, you could see how that profile...
Pretty quick getting just that top profile done.
You know? And then I would come back in, and sometimes that hammer will actually flatten this out a little too much, so I'll come back in and, because now you're adding another edge to that, I'll put a little more shape up in here to get rid of that dip.
Yeah.
So, I'll keep going. And then this is probably...
Oh my God.
Look at that. It's done. So, I mean...
The Rachel Ray of gas tanks.
Yeah. It's like the cooking channel, you know? So I obviously pre-made this top panel, but even with my equipment at home and a lot more time and you know, all that, this panel here still took me an hour and a half or so to really fine-tune to get it to fit like this. So if you keep going and back and forth and back between this whole combination of machines, you can make it fit real nice. Like this, I have the profile down, I have the whole radius all nice, and it fits this buck. And that's the goal, is to have your panels with no tension to lay on your buck. So you wouldn't like want to be like this and holding it to make it fit, because then nothing else is going to wind up lining up. And then
what if I clamp it together or take a tie-down strap and do it, and then I could weld the sides to it?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it all depends on your level of quality and craftsmanship. That would work.
You hear that? You hear that? He's being ugly.
So, so all right, let's say the top, you know, is done. So I'll do the same thing I did on the top, I'll do on the sides. I'll paper pattern it. When I'm doing a tank like this, which is symmetrical, I'll only pattern one side, because who knows that if this tank is perfectly symmetrical from the factory, it may or may not be. So the reason I'll only do one side is that I'll make my two new panels symmetrical. So I'll paper pattern it, and as you can see, this is like way up. So I'll put the folds into it, and that'll show where I need to put my shrinks. And that's where I'm going to increase the thickness of the material to bring that around. The rest of this is a pretty low crown panel, so there's not too much shape to this in here. I'll do the same process and put a radius to that there. So I'll cut two sides out and show you how I do that. Or I could probably just cut one, I guess, right?
Oh, huh?
Huh?
Sweet, huh?
Huh?
What, twice? That's an ugly side. That's an ugly side.
It's an uglier side.
They're both ugly sides. There's nothing pretty about that metal.
Yeah, it's great to work through rust.
You want to...
I'm going to do the same thing, just magnet it down, transfer it over, cut it out. Thank you. You too, man. How's your exhaust coming out there?
I was going to get you a Scotch Brite pad, but we've got them for an air tool, but I don't see them for a hand, for this tool.
Thanks, man. Mark my shrinks.
You bored that guy. That guy was like, screw it, I'm out. I'm out. He's going to get a beer. Oh, yeah. Oh, Heather, can you give him a microphone?
Hey, is it even possible to weld sheet metal without gas? With a flux core wire welder?
I mean, you can.
I mean, does it ever work out looking clean?
No. I mean, I wouldn't on a gas tank. I mean, you can use a flux core wire, but that's not. I wouldn't recommend it. Possibly, you know what I mean? Not in a gas tank situation. Yeah.
Right. I was not speaking about. I was talking about welding without argon.
Oh no.
The gas shields the weld.
Yeah, I'm aware. I'm just wondering if experts like yourselves could do it with a wire welder that didn't have argon.
No, I would never do that. Not.
I mean, when I learned how to weld back in the day when coat hangers were much heavier and actually made out of heavy steel. I learned how to weld when I was little with a coat hanger and a car battery. So I mean, there wasn't any gas involved, and that's how they kind of got me welding. But yeah, so. But no, I wouldn't recommend it.
Right, that's true.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can. Moose brought up a good point. You can use oxy weld, torch weld. So, yeah, you got it. I found that the more I build, the less I use equipment that I thought was super. Like I haven't used my MIG welder, except for that one time I repaired a horse trailer. But
yeah,
but that's just from what I.
Well, it depends.
No, I mean you can run flux or without. That right there's a TIG.
That's a TIG, yeah.
There's a bottle there. There's argon there.
Well, you do most of the panels you have done lately on cars have been aluminum.
Both.
Okay.
Both.
Because I use my MIG welder to hang body panels on cars.
Yeah.
So that's what I use mine.
No, that and like the Willys, it's all have been steel. Porsches, some of them were aluminum body, but those are like the race cars.
Oh, okay.
You know, of the '60s.
With a noise. I think the last time these were worn was by an 8-year-old girl, Addie Andrella, here on stage. They're really tiny. You're doing a really good job, Evan.
I was about to say the same for you, Pat.
You guys that are just joining us on Facebook Live or here, got Evan Favaro from Speakeasy Motors, the lead fabricator at OCC. Orange County Choppers. This next season's getting ready to stop, so you'll see him on the TV again doing that on the Discovery Channel. But he's building out of an 18-gauge piece of steel a gas tank for us here on Grease and Gears Garage.
So I got this cut out, and what I'll do is the same as I did on the top. I'll figure out my radius of this crown, of this panel here. Which 24. I'll wheel this out. I'll actually bend this around because right here is just form. I'll put a crown to this whole panel and just bend it right around this. Because in here, if you put the piece of paper on it, it goes right around. You're fine. You're flat. There's no shape in that right there. The shape doesn't happen until you come up
to the
here.
top.
Yeah.
Anybody curious about trying out the English wheel while he's doing this part? Seriously, nobody. You saying no. This right here. Don't say no. He's got an ultimate builder tag on. He's got to have that.
How am I on time? 2:60. I was just looking for how I was on time.
How's it going, man? What's your name?
Anthony.
Anthony, and you got a bike here at the show?
My dad does.
All right, real good. Did you help him with it?
That means I have 50.
Not really.
That's kind of why he wanted you up here, because you're supposed to be helping him with it, Anthony.
Three?
Anthony, this is Evan.
What? Okay. How are you, man?
Nice to meet you.
How you doing?
Explain to Anthony what you're doing, and see if we're going to get him a pair of gloves and have him do it.
There you go.
Here, I'll hold this, and you get gloves.
Okay. So this wheeling machine uses a flat upper die, radius lower die. The radius depends on whatever panel you're making. And then as I wheel this panel,
I'll hold them up.
I'll increase my tension using this. This is just a big screw, and it just puts more pressure. And what that's doing is squeezing the sheet metal against this flat die using that lower. The way I like to do it is work my way from center out usually, and then just gradually reel back and forth. I like to like track, like painting a wall. You'll do like a line, and then you come back and cover that line a little bit as you progressively move over. Yeah, go. Yeah. Yep, back and forth, and try to watch your thumbs. I like to kind of hold like the edge of the panel like this. That way, if you do nick it, you're going to hit your knuckle and not suck your thumb. Yeah.
It hurts getting your thumb caught between those wheels. Hurts more if you get them caught in a planishing hammer.
That's right. Or a power hammer. That's a good one.
Oh, a power hammer. Yeah, well, that's how you lose a finger.
Work your way out.
Just mash it off.
Yeah. try and hit the back too, like try and do full strokes. Take a step in a little bit, and then and just relax. Don't keep your body. You gotta just feel like real flow with it. You know, body language is a lot when you're working with.
He doesn't want to look like he's too good at it or too natural because he knows his dad will make him work then in the shop. So he says, "Look, Dad, I made a mess in front of 60,000 people that are watching you on Facebook Live right now." By the way.
So as you go, you'll spin this wheel. You can keep going, but I'll spin this, and you'll feel that resistance increase, and that is putting more tension in the panel, making that radius sharper. You can see how it's starting to have that crown to it. So why don't we check it on the tank? Because you don't want to when you overstretch on a wheel, it's a lot harder to correct than it is like with a planishing hammer because you're over a large surface. So you can just kind of hold that like against this here.
It's real close.
I wouldn't even touch that anymore. I would actually just...
Look at that. Yeah. Look at that. One try. Yeah. All right. Man, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming up and helping.
Being that this side panel is just formed, I could just kind of mark my line or so of where, like up here. And then I'm just going to bend this over my knee. And then...
The old knee tool.
Yeah. Done.
Well, you just made my dad jealous. He's only got one leg, so he couldn't do that.
Does he own an IHOP?
That's not funny. That's kind of funny.
It's a little funny.
And back here, we still have... they're making exhaust over here for the War Pony bike that we're building. That bike we started in Long Beach with just a bare frame and got to Long Beach, and Chris found that, oh, sorry, I'm on your way again. Chris found that GSXR front end, $600 for the front end and the controls, the brakes, everything. It was a really good deal. And so, you know, I made a bold statement, hey, we're going to build this bike in 7 shows. We'll ride it off stage. Well, it's a long way, but that show's in 2 weeks, that last show, so we're pretty aggressive. But Chris is going to now ride that from Washington, D.C. back to Pittsburgh when we get it all built. He's not listening, so he's just agreed to it, basically. We've now got a contract made with Chris that he's going to ride that bike, whether it has brakes or not.
What's the plan with that gas tank, with the round bar?
What's that?
What's the plan with the round bar and the gas tank?
He's just going to now fill that in with silicon bronze and just kind of have it be a little French detail.
Cool.
Evan wanted to know what your plan was. There's a microphone right there.
Why? What's wrong with that?
No, I like it. I was curious. That's like the old school trick of like doing like Indian Larry knee pockets, so you just weld the round bar and bash it in. You know?
Chris, he asked about what your plan was with your round rod on the tank.
This is something that I do on choppers all the time, man, just to put like a little bit of a body line in. And we'll usually come around like the tank mount and the seat mount. It's old like Frenching and molding, you know. And what he's talking about, the guys used to do, like Larry would take this, do this same kind of thing, and then from here, he would beat the side of the tank in and get that concave. It's really become like the Indian Larry dish tank style. But for me, I'd leave this like this, and then I come back in, and in the corner of that tank, I'll run silica bronze with the TIG welder. It's a trick that a lot of the hot rod body guys are doing. You fill that whole thing in with that silica bronze and then come back in. The bronze comes out a lot easier than the parent metal, so it lets you work that almost like it's a putty, but it's metal. So the metal's never going to go anywhere. You don't have to deal with it like you do with auto body filler. You end up with a nicer product. Of course, you could go through the whole thing of doing like lead soldering. You could fill that all in with lead soldering, but the silica bronze is a nice, quick, easy trick that we do. It'll come out nice and smooth, and it'll pretend that I'm a much better fabricator than I am.
Yeah. That, I think, was the way I first customized. I got, what do they call? Oh, they called them the 3.5 gallon king tank or something for a Sportster, you know, or a 4.5 gallon tank. Anyway, I got one of those back in the day, and I dished the sides in with a hammer, and that's kind of the way a lot of guys start that way. That's the first kind of modification you'll make to a tank.
I'm going to put this on the hammer.
Okay.
Planishing hammer. I put a bunch of shrinks in here. As you can see, that came back in, and it's holding that form that I put into it. Now I put some shape into the top, and it's starting to come in meet that line up in there. So that hammer is going to smooth it all out. And when I put it in there, I'll actually come down with it. That's going to actually bring this in a little more while smoothing it back out.
All right. Chris, how are we looking on time? Do you know? I didn't bring a...
I don't know. I don't even have a clock on me.
I didn't bring a clock. I don't know. Eventually somebody else. Heather, how am I doing on time? I didn't think this was going to be that hard a question. We have a half an hour.
There we go.
I could build an entire bike in 1 hour with commercial brakes. So
exactly. He's done it on TV, built an entire bike with commercial brakes in an hour. OCC, man. Haven't you seen him? Oh, 30 minutes. Well, he built a nicer bike, man. He's making a tank from scratch. This guy's walking back and going, it's loud.
What, like this is saying?
For those of you just joining us on Facebook Live or they're just kind of moved up, Evan Favaro's from Speakeasy Motors is here on the Grease and Gears garage stage. And he's showing us how to build a motorcycle gas tank from scratch. So he started with just a square flat piece of 18 gauge steel and is moving us through being able to form it on an English wheel. It's building it 3 pieces for the top, and then the bottom will be built later.
So that's actually pretty close. So what I'll do is take my top panel. I'll do this again, but then obviously mirror image it.
Right.
Which gets tricky once you start putting shape into a panel, and it's mirror images. That's when you have to rely on a good paper pattern. It's like the foundation of the piece. It's just like a house. If you don't have a good foundation, you got a crappy house.
What it said in the Bible is you don't build it on sand, you build it on rock.
Right.
There's a story about that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I thought I had more there, but I couldn't remember the rest of it. I know that the sand guy didn't fare well, though.
Hey, look at that. There's 2 done already. So I made these 2 already. And again, it's really easy to get like discouraged into metal shaping, starting it, because it starts off super ugly. Like, especially when you use like a bag, and I mean, it looks terrible. It looks absolutely terrible, but as you refine it and refine the process, and I just recently did a bike where, 2 of them, where I hand shaped all the metal, hammer and dollied out to polish it. Just no paint, nothing. Just actually we used gun blue. One of them I clear coated, the one I brought to Tennessee. So as you refine the process, you get that out. A lot of times on those kind of panels, I'll use die chem, like machinist dye, and I'll spray the whole panel, just like they do on like guide coat for bodywork on cars or aluminum work, where I'll spray the whole tank with this die chem, and then I'll come in with the bastard files, the flat files, and scrape it, and then all the parts where it went away are the highs, and all the parts that are still blue are the lows, and then I'll hammer and dolly that back out. That process needs to be done before you enclose it into a box, because you obviously need to get behind the panel. It's almost impossible to truly correct a panel if you don't have access to the backside. Which I'll show later.
And of course, you guys can go again to motorcycleshows.com, which is the official site of the Progressive International Motorcycle Shows, You can go to jmpcycles.com. You can go to Cycle Source. You can go to Grease and Gears Garage YouTube channel. You can see all of the segments we've done. And what he was just referring to is being able to make a panel using a sandbag and hammers. Just everything he's done with these machines you can do by hand, obviously. And so we actually have a segment, Joe Melke from South Dakota, who's got Snap Fabrications. And we actually have a segment on that we've done on the stage where he actually shapes a panel by hand with a sandbag, shot bag, and his hammers. So
you got a weld? Maybe we could put a splitter on it. Thanks, man. Sorry. Cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So like I said, even with the top, these sides also took probably an hour plus each. It just takes a lot of time, you know. That's the thing. It's just practice over.
So there's two things about that. One, when you go and get something made custom by an American craftsman, and he's doing it by hand, you can see how much time and effort it takes. You're getting a piece. So when you get that price, you know, take that into consideration. That's a custom one-off piece that he's making. The other thing that I would tell you is you compare that to a price of a tank maybe that you're going to buy out of J&P Cycles. When you say, whoa, that's a lot, well, just think about how much how much time it's going to take if you try to get it made, if you try to make that yourself. So
yeah. Another trick I use when I paper pattern something like a metal is this. I carry this with me everywhere. It's just, it doesn't have to be a circle, just any piece of dirty aluminum. I learned this trick from Rick Petco, working with him for years. It was like the most valuable thing he ever taught me was that dirty aluminum trick where like I could just take this piece of paper on an edge and just run that dirty piece of aluminum. It just puts a nice black line, super sharp line that is finer than anything, and it's dead on. And it's just anything, it's just aluminum.
Right on.
So I'm gonna tack it together.
All right, I need to get the red screen. Red screen. Mark? I'm going to get the red screen. Hi. I'll be right back. After these, George Stinsman, look at you.
Is this the helmet that works? This one works? What's that? Yeah, I got him over there.
I can do this. I know I can. I have the skills.
Oh my God, you got a big head.
I have the experience.
Yeah, but my ego is nice and small.
Yeah.
Here we go. All right.
That goes towards your team player.
Thanks. See, look at that. I had my review for Grease and Gears Garage earlier today. Said I was doing great individual work, but I'm not much of a team player, so now I've been a team player.
All right. Filler.
All right, now.
He's actually getting a merit badge later today for being a team player because he worked it out.
I worked it out. I helped assemble the...
My actual words were, he asked me how he was doing. I said, well, listen, you have some stuff to work on. I said, you're not that much of a team player, but you're doing good enough on your own. I don't want to interrupt your groove. So maybe we'll deal with it later.
But I want those. I want to be a team player. So I want those. I want that badge. I did help put together the bead roller over there from Mittler Brothers we just got. So that was fun. I helped with that. Now, how many of you weld? All right. So those of you that don't, well, and maybe some of you that do, we put up this red screen to protect your eyes from flash burn. They always tell you not to look into a weld. It's the welding intensity is identical to looking at the sun, which is why you don't look at the sun. If you look into a weld, it doesn't take but 15, 20 seconds before your entire face is burnt. And a lot of guys will, when they're MIG welding in particular, and they're going to tack something together, instead of getting their helmet out, and they'll close their eyes and tack, close their eyes and tack. Two things about that. Anybody's welding something for you, and at any point they're welding something for you and they close their eyes, never have them weld anything for you again. I mean, you got to see what you're welding. But the other thing is your eyelids aren't thick enough to protect your corneas from the damage that's going to do. And you will after about 45 minutes, an hour, you'll feel like your face has a tremendous sunburn on it. Eyelids are burnt. The next morning, your eyes will start to dry out. The next morning when you wake up, you'll have the medical term for it is thick yellow gunk. I'm susceptible to tack and stuff, and I've had to peel my eyes open because it's so thick on your eyelash. So never look into it. You can damage your eyes very quickly and very easily. Also to the point, I don't know if you can see it, that camera there, we've got those pointed up towards the ceiling. It damages cameras as well. If you put it, that's why we're not able to show you the process of welding on the screens, because it'll damage the cameras even. So that's why we do this. And the fire marshal really likes it. Fire marshals get testy about sparks and flames. That's kind of their business, though.
So Pat was telling you we just got our Jamie Jordan Signature Series Bead Roller from Mittler Brothers. How many of you guys familiar with Mittler Brothers Tool Company out of Missouri? They're one of our best sponsors. Mike Mittler and his crew have sponsored us since day one with Grease and Gears Garage, even before that with Cycle Source Magazine. So a lot of the tooling you see on the stage here that's blue has come from Mittler Brothers, and they provide it for us to bring up here and inspire people, show people how to do metal fabrication, bring these guys up here and do their groove. This particular tool we just got, all of us are super excited that this is in-house, and we can't wait to get it running. But bead rolling has really gone to a whole nother place now. You guys heard of Jamie Jordan? Anybody heard of this? So what you'd be familiar with most of with bead rolling is like fancy dash work, custom seats and hot rods. You see a lot of really fancy stuff. Jamie Jordan is a young guy that started working through Mittler Brothers a number of years ago. And Jamie, they actually developed tools to keep up with this kid's artwork now. He's gone so far with it. He does giant panels out of steel and aluminum, where he's doing this most beautiful, intricate artwork with this stuff now, that they're actually designing machinery to try to keep up with the art that he's doing. So whole nother level that he's taking that stuff. This is his Signature Series machine. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff with this on the coming weeks and trying to figure it out ourselves. We're obviously not going to be as good as Jamie, but kind of a neat tool. And we want to thank Mike for getting this thing out to us and letting us get busy.
So that bead roller, basically, if you've ever seen a piece of metal in a hot rod or a detail on a tank where it's just a line, it just makes that impression. You run it through there. You can make a straight line, you can make a curve. I use it at my shop to crown the edges of fenders so that they look nice and clean and that. But if you can just imagine, that guy's taking a huge piece of metal and he's drawing with just a die, a bead die that's just, rolling through there. There's another fellow, and I wish I could remember his name. He's a hot rodder in Des Moines, actually, and he does the same thing, and he draws pictures of people's cars with his bead roller. It's just fantastic to watch. Again, true American craftsmen do what they do. Oh, Evan.
Hello. Getting there.
You doing all right?
I'm just tacking all the way down, and then I like to make sure, like, before I tack that my gaps are nice and tight. So as you can see, like, I'm not adding all that filler metal. Sometimes if there is a gap, like you see there is like 1/16 or so, I'll actually come in with the hammer and dolly and stretch those two parent metals closer together. That way it's not all just weld.
Whenever you're fitting metal together, you want it to be as tight as possible. You want, obviously, that's just kind of precision and neatness and making sure they meet up. But the other reason, particularly like on a gas tank with motorcycle-related things, we were talking about MIG welding, TIG welding. I use my MIG welder. I hang in a body panel on a car. If I'm hanging a quarter panel, I go and tack it on there with my MIG welder. So for me, it doesn't make any sense to get my TIG welder out for that. TIG welding is a much cleaner process. MIG welding, if you have a little bit of a gap, it's a wire-fed system, and you can actually use it to fill in some gaps. It's not a great idea, but you can do it. TIG welding does not like doing that at all. If you have a little bit of a gap, it's not really used as a filler metal, and so you just have to make sure that all those gaps are tight. So that's what he's talking about. Go back by hand now with the body shaping tools. with a dolly. They make them all different shapes. He'd go in there with a light hammer, and you don't really have to beat the crap out of it. You just tap, 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 and it'll stretch that metal some more so that you can get it.
You can hammer on and off dolly. That will either stretch, or you could bring down highs with it as well, just as a backer.
Yes, he's using a steel filler rod. What is that rod you're using?
That's a ER70S2 rod. Okay. Solid rod, 70,000 PSI, tensile strength. That's just like your standard,
Just standard.
For a clean metal, You can, if you're welding dirtier metals, I like to clean everything, obviously, before all that. But there's a million different rods out there for all sorts of scenarios.
Yeah, but, that's pretty standard. 72 rods, you just kind of go at it. We had a discussion with Moose. And I forgot it. What's that huge monster? Will Ramsey from Faith Forgotten Choppers. They had a conversation yesterday, kind of back and forth about, different rods that have properties that will remove contaminants, while you're welding and all that stuff. That's kind of beyond me. I am precision to. I have a rag in the shop that I wipe things down with, and it depends on what I'm doing. These guys that are up here, Evan is, and Chris Moose, they're so much younger than me, but they're so far beyond me in terms of their skill levels. It's just incredible. They put out stuff already that I couldn't touch. But for me, it's good for me to see that, to be able to, a lot of guys are never going to admit that, they're younger guys are, but it's great for me to see that they're coming up and that they're taking advantage of, all of the ways that you can get educated now. When we were growing up, I see a lot of us are the same age. I learned how to metal shape. This old fella, my dad took me to his shop at 12 because I was in the way all the time at the house and I was usually breaking stuff. He just took me out with a frame and hammer and a piece of metal, 100-yard radius to his shop, and we'd find the shape we wanted and start beating on it. So, but these guys have really been able to get great educations and practice, and so it's nice to see young American craftsmen again doing something with their hands. Jackie, tell us what you got going on there in the Progressive Parlor.
Well, you are right in the middle of another great demonstration from our friends over here at Grease and Gears Garage. But in the Progressive Parlor, we are still in the middle of a super rock and roll busy Saturday here at the Big Bike Show. And we are still hooking you up over here with all sorts of awesome free services, including free barbershop services, free tattoos, airbrush tattoos, that is, from our friends at Ink Tattoo Magazine. We are also signing folks up right now for your chance to win our grand prize giveaway motorcycle, that beautiful custom BMW. And when you get signed up to win that beautiful bike with any of my lovely Progressive girls with the iPads in their hands, I'm going to throw in some free swag and goodies for you over here at the swag counter just for entering that great contest. And if you would like to learn how you can make the switch on over to Progressive and how we can save you even more money simply by switching over and bundling some of your insurances together, we've got some great local agents that would love to show you exactly why we are the #1 rated motorcycle insurance in the United States for well over 50 years. That's how we do over here at Progressive Motorcycle Insurance.
Thank you, Jackie. The other thing that I realized working with these young guys is that they're still young. You would think having to beat on metal today would dissuade a young man from going out and drinking to the point where he would have a hangover today, but that did not dissuade Evan. I unfortunately have helped train him in this fashion over the years.
I admit nothing.
This morning, Evan didn't want to get up. Saying, Evan, come on, we got to go. Evan pulls the covers over his head and says, "You're not my dad." I said, "Evan, kind of here I am." So I had to get Evan out of bed, get him dressed.
I'm not adding to this conversation.
He is grown enough that he bought me breakfast, though, so that was nice on the way here at Dunkin' Donuts. Evan said, just go without me. I'll be there later. I knew that was a damn lie. I knew when he said that we would not see Evan until tonight when it was time to do it all over again. So that's part of being self-employed, though. You get used to being able to make your own time schedule. So honestly, though, Evan was surprised that I wasn't all in the middle of that last night as well. So it's because Heather took me to Giordano's. Is that how you say it? Giordano's Pizza. I had 2 pieces of that deep dish pizza, and I was done. I couldn't move. I don't even know why we fight wars. Let's just send them that pizza. The enemy eats it. It's going to be like we just walk around and pick them up, and just carry them off. That is a gut bomb. Chris ate 3 pieces. I couldn't believe it. What do you need? What do you need?
He needs another hammer.
He needed the tool you were using.
Yeah.
All right, what do you got now, Evan?
So I got this all tacked up, and then now I'm going to run my welds. You see I got it all fit up pretty nice.
All right.
And then once that's all welded, I would go in and make a bottom, put a tunnel in it if needed.
Because without a bottom...
Right, it's just a candy bowl.
It's a candy bowl, and it's not even a good one because it's going to rock back and forth.
Right.
Not that it's not good work.
Right,
it's just
right.
it's not a good candy bowl.
Right.
It's really kind of useless. So
usually what I'll do, so there's a lot of different ways to weld a panel. Once you put shape into a panel, it's obviously it's a lot stronger now, so you don't have to worry about warpage as like if you were on a flat. But what I'll do is I'll just, now that it's all tacked every inch or so, I'll hammer and dolly all my seams and get them all nice and flush, and then I'll just start and work my way right down. There's a couple different ways to go about this. More so importantly on like a car panel, say you're hanging a quarter, where you may want to jump around to keep the area cool so you don't have to worry about warpage. The way I was taught by Faye was he just starts at A and goes right to B.
It's just going to run the warp down the metal?
That's exactly what you're going to do. It's going to warp. That's just a part of all welding ever, is it's going to warp and shrink. And you just chase that wave out of the panel. Because if you're doing a flat, you could chase a wave and it'll be gone. And then what I'll do, even on a tank, the way welds work is it gets hot and then it cools to where it was, but then it shrinks a little bit. So that's where your warpage comes from, because you're actually sucking the metal in. Usually you think when it gets hot, it would expand it. It's actually the opposite. Welding causes shrinkage as it cools. So after this is welded, I'll come back and hit it on the planishing hammer with a sharper die to get into this radius, stretch that weld back out, and that'll relieve any tension that was put into the panel from the welding.
So, and obviously I do this differently, but you're better than I am, so I will concede that. So even on a car panel, you're going to run that weld. You don't take a break. You don't let it cool off. You don't do a section. You just weld.
I'll let it cool.
Okay, so you do let it cool, but you don't skip to another section and then come back. Right. You just start right back up on the end.
Yeah, I mean, that's after it's all properly tacked, the whole thing.
Right.
That also, then it comes into play is just learning how to properly weld the right tungsten size, the right filler metal, the right diameter filler metal, the right amperage to have your welder set at. The most important, I can't show you yet, but once I have this welded, I can show you an example of what's called the heat affected zone. And that is when this weld, you'll see the discoloration from the heat. And an important weld, you don't have to lay dimes to have a good, fully penetrated weld. It's more about a consistent, even heat affected zone, that way, and with full penetration. But if you have it where it comes out and in and out and in, that means like
you're not getting even
weren't steady on your pedal, or you didn't have proper control, or you were using a tungsten that was too big, or...
Now, do you guys hear, when you... that's kind of in the way. Sorry, we'll move forward. You guys familiar with the term dimes? It's in modern TIG welding, it's very popular to talk about stacking dimes for dollars, and it's where every time you tap your rod into the puddle, it creates a small circle, and it's a dime. And so you're gonna, and they look like dimes that have just been stacked up, much smaller, of course. It was back in the day. You didn't want that. They weren't looking for that. They were looking for a continuous weld, of just a consistent puddle all the way down so that it was sealed. So to the point, guys like to now take pictures of their welds and put them on Instagram, and they like to be able to show the dimes. But to his point, to Evan's point, a pretty weld isn't necessarily a good weld. So you want to pay attention if you're getting into welding about that, about penetration. That's what's important. Heather, I'm done with time, correct? We got about 5 minutes? Okay.
All right, I'm going to run this weld.
All right.
We got 5 minutes?
Got 5 minutes? Show them what that weld looks like in about 5 minutes?
No, actually I'm not. Yeah, I'm gonna weld in there. All right. Okay, so I'll just do one side then, just time-wise.
When? Yeah. We're almost done with this, but I think at 5 o'clock I'm back up. Yeah. Any questions about this process? Wow, Evan, you've done a great job explaining. Sir, wake up. Oh, he didn't even move. He was like, I don't want to wake up. Again, want to give a big shout out. Yes, sir. Heather, can you? Oh, I'm sorry. Young man in the back row.
Do they use any variations in the inert gas?
Excuse me?
The inert gas you would use for this? Is
argon for TIG welding.
Straight up argon?
Straight up argon for TIG welding. Hey, Mandy. Yeah, that's what you use for that. That's shielding gas. And again, that gas will come out. TIG welding is tungsten inert gas welding. And what he's got there in his torch is a piece of tungsten that is about 8 inches long that's sharpened to a point, acts as an electrode to focus the energy, the electricity that's coming through. He puts that on the metal. That creates, and then he controls the amperage that he's going to be putting into the metal, the heat, basically, with his foot. And that's going to melt the metal and create a puddle. It's going to melt the two pieces of metal that he's welded. And then he's going to introduce filler rod to that puddle, and he's going to follow that puddle. It really is just, it's liquid metal. He's going to follow that puddle, and that's how he's going to, that makes those two pieces of metal one piece of metal. With TIG welding, you want everything to be really clean. It doesn't want any kind of contaminants in it. You'll get inclusions, which are like little pockets of air in your weld. That makes a weak point. So you want that to be super clean.
So just time-wise, I don't have time to weld the whole thing.
And that was fast.
Thanks. But as you see, I just ran that, and the important part is if you look on the inside, you can see it come through. So that's how I know that I got proper penetration, because obviously you don't want a leaky gas tank. And then the other thing you read is which is called the heat affected zone. And as you can see, it's nice and even and consistent. And then that's kind of your goal, and that is just amperage control and knowing your welder and knowing how to properly use it. So what I would do is I'll weld this all up. Usually what I'll do is I'll weld, say I already had a tunnel cut into here, I'll weld the entire tank and then brace the center before I actually weld the top of the tunnel, because that'll add strength to the whole structure, because when you weld the top of the tunnel there, that's the point where it would like want to suck in, and that shows you that the weld is actually causing the shrinkage. After I'll do all this, I'll actually come back with a sharp radius die on the planishing hammer and stretch that weld back out. What that'll do, it'll post-stretch the weld, and then it'll flatten it out, because sometimes you don't even need to sand this down. One, you're going to lose strength, and two, it'll just be a nicer.
And just to kind of give you an idea of skill levels, he just welded that section. That's about 12 inches of weld?
Yeah. Yeah,
12 inches weld. That would have taken me about 10 minutes. It took him about 2. So that's why I can't work for flat rate. You got a question? Heather, can you get him this microphone right here?
I'm pretty much done with this.
Yeah.
I was wondering, can you do aluminum? You weld aluminum.
What's that?
Can you weld aluminum?
Yeah, you would do that on AC current. What I'm doing is on DC current, which basically what you're doing is instead of the electrons flowing from the tip into the material, it actually works the opposite way in AC.
You have to use
and it's alternating. You'll actually hear the machine.
You have to use a certain rod, welding rod.
I can't hear you. What's that?
You have to use a certain welding rod.
What? I can't hear you.
For a certain welding rod.
Welding rod.
Oh, welding rod. Yeah, yeah. Depending on the alloy of the material that you're using. Yeah, yeah. Your welding rod would be based off of your parent metal.
This is steel, so he's using steel rod, aluminum rod, stainless steel rod, that kind of stuff.
This is steel, so like it obviously wouldn't work on aluminum. You would use the same or an alloy rod. There's literally hundreds of different versions of these, depending on if you're combining two dissimilar metals, metals that are the same. You know.
You can use the same gas or different gas.
Argon for TIG welding. Yeah, MIG welding is a mixture. But for TIG welding is argon.
But yeah, for all the metals, it's all the same gas. It's argon gas.
Yeah.
And where I was going earlier is that gas shields it, and that keeps contaminants out. The number one contaminant to your metal, if you've got it clean outside of that, is going to be oxygen, which is going to draw dirt in. Yes, sir.
Real quick, how would you describe or differentiate brazing from welding? Is there a difference?
Yeah.
Is there a known difference in
the difference
what it is?
The difference between brazing and welding, brazing is a mechanical bond where you're actually heating the two base metals and adding. You're just using a torch. You're not actually using electricity. Welding is an electrical bond because you're using the inverter, in this case, an inverter style machine. And it bonds it differently molecularly, where like soldering would be a mechanical bond, and epoxy is a mechanical bond. Brazing, silver soldering, stuff like that.
So it's akin to gluing the metals together with another metal,
right,
as opposed to making one metal out of them.
If you look, I mean, we could talk for hours on a molecular structure of what it's doing differently. But
Yes, it can, and it's boring. Don't ask.
Of where it is. Nobody wants to hear that. You know.
So, all right, we're done with time. Grease and Gears Garage, ladies and gentlemen. Hit us back up at 5. If you've got more questions, I know Sir from Royal Enfield, you had another question. Come on up and ask. Just come right around on stage. Thanks for being with us, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back. Thank you. Thank you, Evan.